It's been a transformative year for OnePlus. While the OnePlus 8T is a glimpse of the company's past in a flagship killer style phone, the OnePlus Nord is the first phone of a brand new budget lineup and strategy from OnePlus. Of course, the OnePlus 8T is better if we don't look at the price, but we do look at the price. And today, let's find out whether the OnePlus 8T is worth the extra money over the OnePlus Nord. I'm Rohan from TechieTechTech and let's talk about these phones. From first glance, it's hard to tell the difference between both these phones purely by their appearance. Both of them have a glossy glass back, a quad camera module to the top left, and OnePlus branding. I much prefer the matte sides on the OnePlus 8T over the OnePlus Nord's glossy finish, but apart from that, both of these phones are extremely similar look-wise. But when you pick the phones up, the differences slowly start to show themselves. For starters, thanks to the aluminum frame on the OnePlus 8T, it feels more refined and dense in the hand. While the plastic frame on the OnePlus Nord does not feel cheap at all, it also does not really feel premium. It does make the OnePlus Nord considerably lighter in comparison. Another difference that stood out to me is that the buttons on the OnePlus 8T are noticeably more clickier and tactile compared to the Nord. Even the mute slider moves more smoothly on the 8T while the one on the Nord feels rough in comparison. All in all, while the OnePlus Nord is not bad in the design and looks department, the OnePlus 8T clearly feels like it is a segment above the OnePlus Nord in refinement and construction. Flipping over to the displays now, things are actually pretty good here since both these phones pack excellent displays. The only difference on paper is that the OnePlus 8T has a higher refresh rate at 120Hz compared to 90Hz on the Nord, and it has a slightly larger size display at around 6.6 inches compared to the 6.4 on the OnePlus Nord. The difference between 90 and 120Hz is not really noticeable in day-to-day usage. The difference between the bigger dual selfie camera cutout on the Nord and the smaller punch hole cutout on the 8T is frankly more significant for me. In real life, even though both these displays are AMOLED with the same resolution, I have to admit that the OnePlus 8T's display looks better in terms of saturation, vibrance and color reproduction. But since pricing is the factor to consider here, I will say that even though the OnePlus 8T's display is better, that does not change the fact that the OnePlus Nord carries an excellent display on its own. So much so that I personally would not pay more for the OnePlus 8T over the OnePlus Nord just because of the display. Moving on to the performance, things get very interesting here. The OnePlus 8T is basically the most powerful Android phone you can buy today with the top of the line Snapdragon 865 processor. If you're into gaming or video editing or just like having maximum power under the hood, the OnePlus 8T is the phone to get as the performance gains are significant. Since it is more powerful, it will also tend to be smoother in the long run. However, if you're a general user, someone whose usage curtails social media, texting, some movie watching and other non-power intensive tasks, the OnePlus Nord is pretty good as well. The Snapdragon 765G processor in the OnePlus Nord is a mid-range one, but that does not mean it is a slouch, especially in 2020 when even entry-level phones pack decent performance. The OnePlus Nord might be having the less powerful processor in this comparison, but in a vacuum, this phone is sufficiently powerful for day-to-day use and even some casual gaming. Of course, I won't dive too deep into the software experience since they are both powered by Oxygen OS. One thing that I do speculate, and I could be wrong here, is that the OnePlus 8T might get software updates sooner than the OnePlus Nord since it is the more premium phone. But since the Nord is a whole new lineup, only time will truly tell how OnePlus performs when it comes to delivering new software. Let's talk about the cameras now. In terms of optics, both smartphones put a quad camera setup on the rear with the same primary camera and a similar macro and depth camera setup. The 8T has an upgraded 16MP ultra-wide angle camera compared to the Nord's 8MP shooter. On the front, the OnePlus Nord sports a dual selfie camera compared to the single 16MP snapper on the 8T. Let's find out how these perform in real life. As always, we'll talk about the photos first and then move on to the videos. Now, even though both smartphones have the same primary camera module, the difference in picture quality is quite noticeable. The 8T takes stills with better colors, noise processing and high dynamic range. On the other hand, pictures shot on the OnePlus Nord have OnePlus's classic contrasty look. Now both use hybrid zoom to create 2x zoomed in stills. The performance is very similar on both devices. The OnePlus 8T has the widest ultra-wide lens on any OnePlus smartphone. Both smartphones take above average stills. However, the 8T takes slightly sharper pictures with lower noise. The macro camera performance is a mixed bag. The OnePlus 8T takes sharper pictures, but the colors tend to be washed out. On the other hand, macros shot on the OnePlus Nord have accurate colors but lack details. The Nord certainly has a better front camera setup than the 8T. Thanks to the dual camera setup, the OnePlus Nord takes sharper selfies and offers two different focal lengths. Portrait mode works fine on both devices with decent subject separation. Sometimes the Nord tends to go overboard with the smoothing, which results in pictures with inaccurate colors. Both smartphones have very good low light performance. Although pictures shot on the 8T are slightly better compared to the ones shot on the OnePlus Nord. One major difference lies in the processing speeds. The 8T is significantly and noticeably faster than the OnePlus Nord when it comes to processing low light images. Talking about the videos, the OnePlus 8T wins when it comes to resolution and frame rates because it can shoot videos in 4K up to 60 FPS with different focal lengths, while the OnePlus Nord can only shoot in 4K at 30 FPS, and that too with several limitations. But thanks to the dual front camera setup, the OnePlus Nord can shoot videos in 4K up to 60 FPS with its selfie camera setup, while the OnePlus 8T tops at Full HD at 30 FPS. The video quality is very similar on both devices. The OnePlus 8T is slightly better than the Nord in terms of stabilization, autofocus speed, and offers significantly better low light performance. To conclude, both smartphones have practically the same camera setup with minor differences. You do get a lot of small enhancements with the OnePlus 8T, the most noticeable of which is the processing speed. So while you do get an overall better camera experience with the OnePlus 8T, I cannot recommend you to pick it over the Nord just because of the camera. Let's talk about the battery life now. I've used both these phones extensively as my daily drivers, and I can tell you that battery life is very good on both the OnePlus 8T and the Nord. You can easily get a day's worth of use and even stretch it to a day and a half without much effort. We're talking around 5 to 6 hours of screen on time on both from a single charge. Charging them, however, is a totally different situation. Both phones have no support for wireless charging, while both of them support crazy fast wired charging. But the one on the OnePlus 8T is faster by a lot. It is the first phone to feature OnePlus's new Warp Charge 65 technology, which charges it from 0 to 100 in around 40 to 45 minutes. The OnePlus Nord supports Warp Charge 30T, which is slower in comparison but is still faster than 99% of phones in the market. Again, in a vacuum, both these phones charge up really quickly, but in this comparison, the OnePlus 8T easily takes the win. Another thing worth noting is that the stereo speaker setup on the OnePlus 8T is a big step up in experience compared to the mono speaker at the bottom on the OnePlus Nord. It is just very easy to block when you grip the phone in landscape mode. When watching movies, the earpiece speaker on the OnePlus 8T shoots the audio directly in the direction of your face, which definitely enhances the overall experience. On that note, even the haptics on the OnePlus 8T are significantly better in comparison. The phone call experience is somewhat of a head scratcher though. Even though the earpiece on the OnePlus 8T is slightly clearer and louder, I found the overall calling experience on the OnePlus Nord to be better, as it was consistently better at catching a signal and holding on to it. Cellular coverage is very area specific, so this could be an isolated incident, but in my experience, the radios on the OnePlus Nord appear to be better than the ones on the OnePlus 8T. To conclude, should you buy the OnePlus Nord or spend more money to go for the OnePlus 8T? It truly depends on the kind of user that you are. While the OnePlus 8T provides a significant jump up in performance and some other minor refinements, they would be useless to you if you're not going to use the extra power or not care about the incremental changes. If you're that kind of user, get the OnePlus Nord and save your money. Seriously, it's a very good phone. However, if you don't mind spending the extra money over the Nord, or if you're a power user, especially someone who's a serious gamer, the OnePlus 8T provides a big step up in performance while also providing small but important enhancements. Get it and I can promise you that you will fall in love just like I did. I hope this video helped you make a decision, and if it did, please help us back by liking this video, sharing it and subscribing to our channel. Please continue the discussion in the comment section below, where I will try to reply to each and every one of you. Until then, this has been Rohan from TechieTechTech, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.